Hi everyone, it's Ileana and I have a card to share with you today. I am collaborating with Impression Obsession and they were kind enough to send me a few stamps, and this is what I made with their Autumn Leaves stamp set. I did just do a couple of practices and I used the Arches hot press watercolor paper, and this time I'm going to try the Arches cold press watercolor paper just so that I could see what the difference is. And I'm using the same supplies. So first I'm going to take the sentiment from the stamp set and I'm just going to line it up. I'm not too careful about how straight it is because some of the words are a little wonky, and so it's not that big of a deal. I'm just double stamping it twice because the um, cold press paper is a little textured, and so sometimes it takes a little bit to get all of the ink to go into the little crevices. I'm taking a couple of the stamp sets and I noticed that some of the stamp sets could hug the edges of the sentiment, and so I'm placing them um, just around the sentiment, and I'm doing all three stamps at the same time. And once again, I'm inking it up. I'm using Delicata Celestial Copper pigment ink. It's a sticky pigment ink so that my embossing powder will stick to it. And I am stamping these twice as well. It's it still provides good coverage, but a second coating will really help that embossing powder to stick everywhere. Now I'm trying to I cleaned off my stamps and now I'm just going to move them so that I could fill up the card front. And I'm debating about putting that one there, but I want it to go a little bit off the edge. And because I can't stamp right up against that edge of the MISTI, I'm just going to do two, and then I'll go ahead and clean my stamps again and then go back and reposition them. Now I am stamping all of my images all at before I add the embossing powder. The ink does stay wet for a while, so you want to be careful to not touch the wet ink with your fingers or else you're going to smear. But luckily, if you do that, you might be able to wipe it up. And I'm being very careful so that I don't get the ink on my fingers and then make a mess. Now I'm going to be using Hero Arts embossing powder in copper, and it is very pretty once it's melted. I really, really like this powder. And I decided to do embossing, um, heat embossing, so that when I watercolor, it creates a well and my watercolor doesn't wander outside of the edges of the image, and so it makes it much easier to um, stay within the lines. And now I'm just going to funnel back my embossing powder back into the container. And I've heated up my heat gun and I'm just going to melt the powder. Um, this paper does warp a tiny bit, but not too bad. And I tried to use a piece of, what is that called? The cutting mat from a die cutter just to hold it down. And because it was still warm, I really didn't press all that hard onto it, so it ends up popping up later. I'm going to be using my Peerless watercolors, and what I did was I took a business card holder and I cut down the strips and I just created my own little album with my watercolors. And I have, and I'll show it to you later, but what I'm doing now is I just put some clean water into the first image and then I'm just dropping the color. The second one, I forgot to put clean water on it, and the color doesn't move around all that great once it gets absorbed, and so I just um, used a clean cloth to pick up the excess color. And here I'm adding a little bit of a brown to the red color so that it kind of creates fall colors. And then because there's a puddle inside of the leaf, it blends really smoothly. And I'm adding some to the other one as well. I'm not going to show you every bit of watercoloring. I'm just going to show you the colors that I used. And for this other one, I'm going to just add some more water. And I'm using a number 6 round brush from, what's that brand called? It's a black velvet silver watercolor brush. One of my friends gave me a set. And so I'm adding the olive green and egg crew. Those are the colors that I remember. I don't remember what colors I used for the red ones. But basically, I just used the colors that came in the Peerless set. I didn't use anything else than what was in the sets. For this other leaf, I'm going to be doing more of a yellow color. So I'm using that same egg crew. And I do go back and I add a little bit of brown. And you can tell that sometimes when you make your palette like this, that the watercolor paper is, where the color is held, is still a little damp. And when you close your book, it sticks to the other side, but you could still use that color. All you have to do is wet it down again. And I'm going to add a third color to this one. I really do like these brushes. They're really, really nice, and I am hoping to get more of them, but I think I have all of the ones from the round collection. So I'm waiting to see if I actually need more before I follow through with my full set syndrome. So what I'm doing now is I took a number 8 brush, which was a little bit bigger, and I added some water to the background. And I'm not worried about bleeding into my leaves because of the embossing powder. And what I did was I took some of that brown color and I put it into the lid of a mason jar, and I use a mason jar to hold my water for cleaning my brushes, and because of that I'm not worried about spilling the water on my desk. And what I did was I put it in the lid and then I added some more water to soften the color. And when I go back, I don't water it back. I don't water it down as much. That way I could create some darker areas, sort of like there's a shadow around the leaves. And now that it's dry, I'm putting them side by side so you can see the cold press is on the left and the hot press is on the right. And thanks so much for watching. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you are not subscribed, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.